we're back. You like that?
That was
Midjourney
good.
Fast Hours podcast. Drew Brucker, Rory Flynn. What's happening?
Oh, nothing much, man. We are closely heading towards the holiday season. Don't know how. I looked up and I was like, damn, it's like 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. How the hell did that happen? So
It's literally
like,
flying by.
having like a subtle meltdown because Black Friday is always absolutely insane, and then I realized that it's going to do this for the first time with a baby, so we'll see how this goes. But man, how's your life been going so far? Give us a little rundown.
Hide your credit cards from your wife for Black Friday.
Jesus.
Yeah, what is going on, bro? I don't know. Just busy creating some new content with Midjourney, trying to play with some new tools. Just everything, man. Everything we've been doing. Really excited about what's coming and just all the changes that are happening. Right. It's also challenging because for us, I know we're talking to a lot of people that maybe are clients or we're pitching work to. And to keep them up to date, right, at different foundational levels can be tough to explain what's possible, what's not possible, and you also have to be up to date with that stuff. So yeah, man. I mean, that's sort of a challenge, but in general, love this time of the year. I think this is probably like my favorite time. Like football season, college basketball season. You can finally maybe wear a hoodie if Atlanta's not too fucking crazy. Like it's 80 today. Like, can we just stay in the 60s for a couple days so I can actually, not have to change middle of the day? So that'd be great.
I know how you feel. I was in Charleston this week. Quick trip with the baby. First flight.
Yeah, how was that?
She performed well. I'll give her, we were like giving her a solid like 83 out of 100 grade on that.
You're going on the full scale system, not even a 1 through 10. Okay.
Well, we were sitting there. We're like, all right, she's being really good as the plane started to take off, and I'm like, everyone's like, feed her during takeoff so her ears don't pop, and I'm like, if we're feeding her, that means she's gonna poop herself, and damn well what happened as soon as we hit that tarmac and start hearing the. It's like, oh no, oh no, here it is. So she's just like smiling, like sitting in her own self. And then on the way home, we had a little bit of a meltdown on the tarmac, and I was like, oh god, everyone's gonna kill me and like want to slit my throat. And then as soon as the plane started lifting off, she was like, out. So
amazing.
Thank God. But yeah, it was like 85 down there. I was like, holy, like we were walking around like sweating and dead. I was like, I haven't felt
it's humid, dude.
A month,
it's
right? Yeah.
Super humid still. Yeah. It's wild, man.
Good.
It's wild. What did you guys do out there?
We kind of just like, I went to school in University of South Carolina, so I'm pretty well versed in Charleston and going, been there a bunch of times, seen, eaten a bunch of restaurants. So we kind of just, we're like, where are the low key spots that we can go and take the baby?
They got some good food. They got some really good food.
So good. We had this place 167 Raw for lunch one day. We just started piling it. This is like the difference between having a baby and just going by yourself. My wife and I normally probably like get a bottle of wine, have an awesome afternoon, get hammered, maybe like just walk around, just be idiots throughout the city, and baby wakes up when we're at lunch, so it's like I'm eating oysters with one hand, bouncing the baby with the other. Like a switch, like pass to the wife. Wife starts, feeding the baby with the bottle. I'm like hammering down a meal. She'd switch back over to me. So it's, just try to keep her in relatively high spirits so that we don't have to like ruin our lunch. And that was kind of what it was like the whole time. But hey, you get master multitasking, right?
I get it.
I don't know how you do it too. Do you even go out to restaurants?
We don't switch.
Okay.
So
you guys 1 and 1. There you go.
Like my strategy now is, as soon as I order the food, I'm telling them to bring the checkout with the food, right? So I can already have that ready to go. So as soon as it's done, we jet. And it's crazy because every time you ask that, like you catch them off guard.
Yeah.
And I feel like they think it's a knock on them for some reason. And I'm just like, no. Like, you see what's going on here? Like,
they don't get the chance to upsell or boost that tip a little bit.
Yeah,
an extra glass of wine or an extra drink.
That's what it is. There you go.
Yeah,
that's what
I remember the days. I was a bartender. It was always like just a sneaking extra little. Oh, how about dessert? It's really good. And then but the funny thing is with that, I saw someone. It was one of my bosses, Lisa. She came to visit us in New York, and like she brought her. I think he was 5 at the time, and like as soon as we sat down, she had. Like, they were like, hey, how are you doing? She's like, can I have pasta with butter and orange juice, this and that, and bring that out just immediately? Then, come back and take our drinks, like, whatever. She was like, just get the food in their hands He'll eat it. He'll be happy. Like, I don't have to deal with it. It's like,
Changes the whole experience, dude.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's an entirely different thing. Well, at least you
smart
made
tactic.
it, tested it out, know it's possible.
Survived. The things that you don't think about is like, oh damn, like the little walker and the bouncer provide so much entertainment, even if it's for like 20 minutes at a time. Like you need that 20 minutes to, I don't know, go to the bathroom or like, get dressed or take a shower every once in a while. So it's like, you just constantly holding, constantly, moving her around, standing her up, sitting her down, laying her down, playing with her. Hey, this is the real stuff, guys. She'll be back soon. You guys will hear her as normal. Don't worry. She'll be screaming in the background doing something. She's got a raspy voice right now. It's actually really funny from the plane. I think from the dry air. It's like,
Oh my god, that is
sounds like a
hilarious,
grandma.
dude. Holy shit, that's great. Oh man, we might have to. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what
Real
goes
life.
on in between Midjourney generations. So
Speaking of Midjourney generations, let's talk about the topic for today because I think this is a good one. We touched on this a little bit back in, I don't know, episode 5, way back toward the beginning, but it was in combination with a bunch of other tools, right? So today we're going to be talking about ChatGPT or your LLM of choice, right? It doesn't have to be ChatGPT. But, how you can maybe use that in tandem with Midjourney. And of course, there are some obvious ways to do it. We'll probably touch on a few of those, but there's also some unconventional ways to do it. And it's hard to really say how much people are using ChatGPT in combination with Midjourney because, we don't really get to sit with too many people and just kind of watch their process. But hopefully this unlocks something for you because there are so many different valuable ways to leverage it in addition to creating images, assessing images, describing images, putting it into use cases, all that good stuff. So we're going to dive into that. Anything you want to get us started with?
I think it's really important that, again, this isn't like, here's 50 prompts for Midjourney with ChatGPT. It's more so of like a mindset and a thought process of going about it. Because, again, that's why these tools are awesome. That's why having ChatGPT, Claude, Llama, whatever, they're legit because they're just problem solvers. So you can get creative with them also. It's not just like, here, can you help me create prompts for my images? Yes, we'll go through that probably a little bit here. But also, like, there's different ways to use it. And I think it's, again, how creative can you get with the infinite possibilities that we have with the tools and, also just get better and learn at the same time. So I think that's, really the idea of all of this. And this is a lot of, stuff that probably Drew and I have done for specific problem solving purposes over the course of 2 years with this stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be, if you have, I'm going to put this in here, right? If you guys have some cool stuff that you're doing with the tools too, we probably can't cover everything in an hour and a half.
Please.
Drop them in the comments. Let us know. This is community sharing. Want to see what everyone else is doing. It's going to spark some ideas, I'm sure. Drop it in there. And maybe we'll talk about it on another podcast just to see if there's something that we can test and have fun with too.
Great point. We're learners too, right? Like we're always looking for new things, new ideas that we haven't thought of, new things to test and experiment with. So yeah, we're sure you guys got some great things as well. Share those for us. In the meantime, man, you want to get us started with like number 1, and I don't know if we want to number these things or what, just to kind of make it a little bit more digestible, but kick us off with something.
Yeah, so I think, look, if you're just starting Midjourney and you're having trouble prompting, right, I think you can utilize ChatGPT, Claude, anything to, number 1, help you expand your knowledge of some certain aspects of what we talk about a lot, which is this prompt structure, right? So Drew and I typically have a pretty solid, I think, prompt structure that's usable in a lot of different formats for a lot of different images, right? Like this can span the gamut from, illustration to photorealism to, 3D, whatever you're thinking about. But it's really about taking an image, breaking it down into its requisite parts. So we look at, something like the photograph, right? Like we have our shot type, we have our subject and action, we have our composition, we have our textures, our colors, lighting, things of that nature. If you're not familiar with certain aspects there, go utilize the tools to suggest some other ones. So I always think about it like, oh, composition, great. How can I learn more about composition? Let me go ask ChatGPT. What are some typical compositions for cinematography, not just photography? What are some typical compositions there? What is made up? What makes up those compositions? You get something like, oh, you can look at, motion and balance, or you can look at something like, framing and silhouettes. And it's like, okay, well, what type of techniques would you use for framing? Right. And then it'll tell you, okay, silhouette framing, or, constructed framing, or this framing or that framing. And then you're like, well, what is that? Great. You ask it. And then either one, you can just go take that term and test it out on Midjourney, or two, like try to describe it to Midjourney so that it can, really boost the image. So that's how a lot of the things I started to essentially like build my prompting. I don't want to call it a library, but like a knowledge base in a sense for myself.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really important because there's a lot of, again, you go into something like lines. There's vertical lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines, implied lines. There's like all these crazy little photo techniques that you can utilize just in composition. But I mean, there's also, different types of, photo effects that you can put on there. There's different types of lighting effects you can put in there. It's cool to learn them. But of course, you're not going to know every single one of them when you start. So there's a good way to go and break it down. I know you've probably done this a million times the same way.
It's great. I think that's the perfect number one, right? Because going back to the beginning of understanding how to best use Midjourney, you got to sort of figure out what you don't know. And, like for me with Midjourney being an image tool, right? Like, and just having some background in photography, I think that helped me get up to speed a little bit faster in terms of like, camera angles. Like it can do this, right? If I put in a camera or a lens, especially early on, it seemed to make a little bit more of a photorealistic difference, and then what are all the cameras that I could put in here, the lenses, the camera angles. So I think in large part, especially if you're listening to this and you're still toward the beginning of your journey in Midjourney, not to be too meta, like this is the easiest way to really expand your vocabulary or your knowledge base, like you said, because camera angles, you're not going to know what all those are. And you're not going to know which ones work, right? So like what I would typically do is go through those different holding categories, which is, I love that you sort of coined that, but figure out what those are, right? And then figure out which ones are going to work or be a little bit consistent within that, because they don't all work. And some are more consistent than others, right? And so like going through that, what do I know? What do I know that works? What is a term or a phrase that I'm not familiar with? Let me try that. What does this do? And so you think about going through that with photography types, camera angles, lines, like you mentioned, composition in general. You mentioned framing, lighting, shadows, moods, textures, poses, expressions. Styles, right? Like the list goes on and on and on and on. And so, to really, I guess, expand that, you need to play with it. And I think now, right, there's so many people on Midjourney, and the Explore page is sort of built out a little bit more comprehensively than it used to be, because you used to not really see the variation that you see today. I mean, I think there are just a lot more people using the tool and using it well. But again, I think that's a perfect way to start. Fill in those gaps. That's why I do like a lot of things on those categories, the tokens, because I don't think a lot of people really they're not just sitting there and thinking, imagining what tokens exist, right? You want to try things that, people have tried and save a little bit of time and energy in the process.
It's a good point. I mean, like, I think the easiest way to do it, if we're going to go be actionable about this, like pick something like lighting, right? And just go through, like, go ask ChatGPT, can you suggest 25 lighting techniques that professional photographers use? And then give me a short description for what they do. You don't even have to ask, write a really long prompt. It'll just give it to you in a list, and it'll be like, side lighting comes in from the side, paints half the face. Top lighting comes down, or underlights under the chin, gives you this type of emotion, or volumetric lighting, or whatever. So you can get an understanding, because then that also gives you start to build the vision of what I can either prompt with that or how I can change. The other thing for that too, if we're going into something like lighting, let's talk about that. There's, instead of it being like a technical terminology, you can also give it a mood. So maybe you need some adjectives, right? Like sometimes using a good word or an emotional word attached to lighting gives you something really great. Like Drew likes to give me some shit every once in a while. I like to use ethereal lighting a lot because it oftentimes just gives an awesome effect. That one's good, but I've used different, powerful keywords there, like gossamer lighting, right? It's a little softer, a little bit more. Instead of saying soft lighting, Gossamer just like paints a different picture. So sometimes you can use it for adjectives for words like that too. Like give me like something, instead of ethereal, what's another, word that we can utilize there to give the same sort of effect and emotion, but not. So it'll pick that up and kind of paint the entire image in that mood as well. So, again, the same way you're using it to write ChatGPT in a lot of ways, you can use it for Midjourney, or, take this prompt. Like, does this make sense? Is this like, how would you envision this? Realistically, I'm always thinking of, what are different words? Like, what's it? The same way that I would try to write sales copy, and instead of using, big, can I use the word enormous? Can I use, ways to punch it up a little bit. Let's call it that.
I think the synonyms is a great jumping off point to the initial point because training data isn't so perfect on every item that exists in this world or every scene that exists in this world, right? And so I think when you think about, like I think about using this for a client, particularly in like metal recycling. There were a few equipment pieces that Midjourney had no idea what they were. And so like I used it to brainstorm, okay, what are like 8 other names, what are like several other names for this that are used globally? Tried all those, right? Because maybe one of those works. And I've run into that situation a lot, right? Where it's like the first thing that comes to your mind you would think is going to work. It doesn't recognize that. But if you change it to something else, like I just had a training with a guy yesterday, actually. He was trying to put a sign on a gas station pump, but he was thinking of like, like the digital display where it kind of shows the gallons and how much, right? But instead it was giving him like a billboard on top of it, even though he was just saying sign. And I said, well, I think, just try digital sign, see what happens. Got it. Right. And so like some people assume that it's not going to get certain things and they haven't gone through the process of trying different synonyms or adjacent ideas. So that's a really good one.
The other thing you can do with it too, this is I knew this was going to happen as soon as we start going into it.
What did you got?
Was colors, right? Because I think everyone is pretty much their baseline. Their baseline is red, blue, yellow, whatever. Using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to come up with different shades of those colors, because Midjourney is actually pretty good at it. Like I found one shade of green that I love instead of just like dark green or turquoise green. Like I was trying to find something in the middle, and it came up with phthalo. It's like PTHALO. I looked it up and I'm like, this is a sick color. I love this, and I started prompting with it. And it hit it. So like you can find like instead of blue, cyan or sapphire, things like that, where you can get different shades and different like emotions from those colors. I think that's a really fun one to play with because you get some real good
that's an important one too.
Yeah.
Because also, at least up until now, hex codes, Pantones, they're not specific. Midjourney doesn't respond to those one for one. So I don't think there is anything one for one, but I did have something interesting happen the other day. I used that suggested prompt. When I was doing like a external edit or a retexture or whatever I was doing, and it gave me a Sherwin-Williams color.
Huh.
And I was just
what
like,
was the color?
interesting.
Was it like eggshell white or something like that?
Man, it was like Sherwin-Williams color number this. And I was like,
wonder if they trained on, oh my God,
you
I wonder if they trained on
and
those swatches.
I haven't experimented with that, but I just might.
Did we
no one else
unlock something?
I think that could be interesting. But yeah, to your point, it does pretty good with most of the names. Like lime green, things like just different variations, canary yellow, like anything like that. It's pretty solid.
Because it makes a difference, right? Like when you prompt red, most of the time it comes out red, right? Like it looks like whatever the most, amorphous sort of collection of red is. It's not, like a deep, like warm red. It's not like it's like a cherry red most of the time when you prompt red. So there's how many different variations of red are there? Like a billion. So you can get in there and like describe it a little bit more. And I think that time sometimes is again, even utilizing different analogies there as well, like ladybug red, something like that, right? Like that's a little bit different than a rose red, or we're getting micro here, but again, that's where when you want the control and you want to play with the tools, you can see that it does have power like that. So it's fun. That's a good way to start.
I love that, dude.
That's
a good one. That's a really good one.
Where are you taking us from here?
Yeah, let's go like more of like the story route, too.
Okay.
I know you've got some things that at least come to mind for me that you've done, but with this, I mean more or less like, let's say you want to come up with a sequence of images, to tell a story. You want to do a story arc. Obviously you can use ChatGPT to come up with stories. You can provide them with certain frameworks of stories, right? Because there are different types of frameworks that are used in stories, but there are like some general ones that you just, hey, like, I've got an idea for this minimal effort. This is the kind of story arc I want it to follow. Write out the story and then leverage that story to say, okay, based on this, if I were to create X number of images, what images could I create that would tell this story completely, right? Just using static images. And then can you come up with the prompts for each of those, right? Using X structure, right? So you're basically using that as a complete partner all the way through the storytelling process. I've done that several occasions. The thing that I also thought about for you was, I know you did this early on. Like one example that still stands out for me was the one that you did with Tulum, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where you like basically like tell people about that, because I thought that was fascinating. And this is a long time ago too. So like no one was really doing this stuff yet, but you basically utilize ChatGPT in a way to kind of like, I don't know, how'd you go about that? You basically created different scenes, right? As if you were telling a story of somebody traveling to a hotel.
Yeah. So this was when I realized that we could operationalize prompting, and when everyone was before SREF, before you could really do anything with image and style consistency. It was like, all right, if I can't like reference something, I'm gonna have to. I can't use a LoRa, can't use any of this stuff. Like I have to. My text prompts have to be so dialed in that there's no difference in between the images, right? The aesthetic, the mood. Like I have to really break it down. That's where the prompt structure started with. So okay, so we have to take like what is an image, break it down into its requisite parts, and then whatever that branding of the images, that has to be consistent. So the textures, the colors, the composition, the mood, the lighting, the shadows, all that stuff has to be consistent, and then we can just flip the subject and the environment, and really that should be the case. So what I did with that was I just basically started to ask ChatGPT. I'm like, if I'm looking for these specific parts of a prompt, right? Like I want this, but I'm trying to walk through a hotel. So in my mind, I didn't have like the storyboard prompt down yet. But I'm like, how would I walk through a luxury hotel? I'd go in the front entrance. I'd go to the front desk. I'd probably get a welcome drink or something like that. Then I'd go and see the grounds. Like, where do you go first? Go see the pool, go see the bar, go to your room, come back, go to dinner. So I was like trying to weave my way through that story. But I actually have, let me pull this up. I actually have the prompt I used for that because it still hasn't changed. So boom, this one. All right. So when I was doing this, right, I was using like a 2-part prompt. Basically, I would say, like, this is a Midjourney prompt formula, right, in the prompt. I'd give it the prompt formula, which was like photo type, subject and action, environment, color scheme, camera lens, film type, lighting, composition, additional details, parameters, right? So I put that in there. Respond yes if you understand, because I didn't want ChatGPT to go and like do its own crazy thing. It's much better now than it was then. But so like, let's create 3 prompts for a 5-star luxury hotel in Tulum inspired by tree houses, right? Like that's what it was back then. Use concise, visceral, powerful language. Only use keywords. Do not use filler words. So then it would just go and rip. Like, here's 3 prompts. And I'd go, okay, let me go try those out. So then I'd go test them. And I was like, okay, cool. Now, if I said like, all right, now in the same thing, I wouldn't change anything else, right? With subject and details. I would just say like, okay, for this 5-star luxury hotel, pool shot, like a shot of the pool, like instead of just like changing the entire prompt, leave everything the same and then just say, luxury 5-star hotel inspired by, tree houses, view of the pool or the lobby or the bar or a hotel suite, XYZ. So then I realized, I didn't have to change that much. I could just do everything really consistently. So I redid this a while, like, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. But it was essentially like, how can I redo what I did in Midjourney version? I think it was, I don't know if that was 4, maybe that was 5. But it was, again, just getting these different shots, right? Like, it's just the same prompt over and over again. I'm just changing, like, the room.
Yeah.
because it all looks, the same. Then you can use this in the same style to get the food to make it all look consistent. Now we can use style reference, right? But again, you can go through and have like this entire story, this entire branded story with basically text prompts if you wanted to. So I know I'm scrolling through this fast, but there's so many images, and I was like, I don't even know how to curate these because I like them all so much. Again,
Yeah.
But I think this was V6, so that was probably like 2-3 months ago. But that was like the breakthrough in terms of, okay, we can get consistency. That is a myth. That was something with version 5 when I did it. So everyone knows those images just saw were updated. I did.
Well, that reminds me too, like where we were at in time, that there wasn't a lot of talk about prompt structure yet, but I'm trying to think about what the impetus or the inflection point was for that. And I think in a lot of ways it was trying to get consistency whenever you didn't have things like style reference at the time, right? All you had was image reference. I can't remember how good it was at that time,
okay.
but at the same time, right, with no color, identifiers, things like that, like it was really just about keeping something static and changing out pieces of the prompts, so having that template to create that story. And so I think that was sort of how these prompt structures came to be. Midjourney never came out and said, hey, use the same prompt structure every time. That was just something that people came up with because they found out that they could use, they could just get better consistency in doing so. And so I thought that was like another one of those like cool little Easter eggs where Midjourney didn't do that on purpose, but like something really cool came out of it because people were creating.
That was also, I'm patting myself on the back, everyone. Sorry, doing it every once in a while. That was like when I sent you when they updated their website and they had like the prompt structure like word for word from like my document and some of the stuff from your documents, where it was like, oh, they just lifted this straight up and put it on the website. I was like, oh, all right, because it even had like word for word, guys.
It was word for word. I remember that.
Like, I was like, this is, it went beyond just the prompt structure. There was other things in there, and I was like, all right. Regardless, you guys have given me a platform, so I don't really care.
For sure.
But just funny that they, I don't even think they think about a lot of this stuff themselves. Just like, here's a tool, go create, but they also need someone to explain it a little bit.
I love that. Also like another cool idea too is just prompt variations. If you get a prompt from ChatGPT or you've got a prompt, take that in and get variations of it. Test those against each other, right? Like, again, there may not be much difference in the prompt, but you're probably going to get 2 totally different results. So depending on what you're using it, prompting for, right? Like maybe if you're just doing personal stuff, you don't care so much, but if you're trying to achieve something specific and, kind of find like those best images, that's another way to dig.
Because you can also expand that prompt, right? Like I do that as like the baseline. Like here's the key powerful terms that I want in there. Like we're prompting version 5.2 again, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then it's like, oh, expand on this, give me more detail, right? Like that's really where keep it under 100, whatever the token count is or the character count is that you can put in. But you used to have like these paragraph prompts I used to see from people. I'm like, oh, that was generated by ChatGPT.
Yep.
We did it too, but again, like you never know when you write that, the problem here is iteration, right? So when we'll talk about like the good and the bad of this too, is when you get like these really long paragraphs, you never know what if you don't like something in the image, like where is it? Where is it in this 2 paragraphs that like screwed up everything that I don't like? Because then it's like there's so many variables. You don't know what's affecting the image, and it's like now I have to go change like everything and rewrite all these sentences. So sometimes it's easier to start out with just those keywords and then expand upon it.
Yes.
I think it's like a good way to use the tool also. But
yeah, I like that though. So that's part of it, right? Like the prompt variation, and I think like just you can have a structure. There's also like times I found like that, Midjourney can actually do a lot more with longer phrases than I thought. That was sort of like part of the thing I experienced when doing that custom GPT for like reverse image generation kind of.
Yeah.
It was just more or less like, hey, I don't really care about the structure. I just care about you like describing this in full, in totality, right? Like the hat, this guy's wearing a hat, it's black. What's the hat made out of, right? What's on the hat, right? Like just describing it fully as if somebody cannot see it and just getting like really long prompts out of it and then just copy and pasting those. And that worked pretty well too. Like I'll just share a quick example of that because that was sort of the idea I built when trying to do with the GPT is it's like, I just want to be able to see if I can crack this code. Let me go over here and get into this. So you can see this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, so you just take any image, right? And then basically it's giving me paragraphs, and these aren't even the long ones. I probably have to go back pretty far. I haven't really been using this in a minute.
Some pages worth of prompts.
Yeah. Like, man, these aren't even. Yeah, I mean, but basically, right? Like, it would spit out some long stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, it would interpret it really well. The coherence was better than I thought. And then, even if it's not, you can then always layer on the image reference on top of that. Mm-hmm. Right. So like, I just found that to be a great way to use ChatGPT to skirt around the default describe tool that Midjourney had, because, the describe tool was really cool to use, but the one knock on it was you're not going to get quite what you're hoping for out of it. Right. You can still get some cool generations, but it's probably not what you're hoping for. So I thought that was like, yeah.
Like it was close, but it wasn't like exact. And that's where these tools come in.
So like, I love using the vision aspect. I think that's the underutilized part. Another example, right? Like I went on that kick where I'm just pumping out all these style codes. Mm-hmm. And look, I don't know every single style that exists and how to describe it. But hey, look, like all I did was like, let me go all the way back to the top. How would you describe the style of image?
Yeah.
Boom, right? Like, so now I can describe it to people, right? And then it kind of puts them into their own categories. And so I was really just describing these of like, look, this is one that's, surrealistic portraiture with this kind of aesthetic, right? And so, I mean, like the vision aspect, I think is so underutilized. There's also the component of you could take an image and have it assess the image for like how compelling it is, whether it's set up compositionally correct, like graded on a scale of this to this in terms of like how great this image is, what can improve on this image, right? Like you could use that as a creative partner and expert and essentially audit your images.
Visual heat mapping as well.
Visual heat mapping. So the visual part, man, dude, visual is, now that we're just kind of like talking about how to describe that, I think that's the underutilized part, the visual components.
Because it's, again, like the heat mapping stuff, if you're in marketing, you want to know where people's eyes are going. Like that's a big part of like, you don't want someone's eyes going to the upper right-hand corner if what you're trying to do is get them to click on the bottom left-hand corner, right? Like maybe you do, I don't know. But most of the time that's how I'm thinking about it, is like, where can I put the focal point of the image so that it still is like within eye tracking range of, where whatever I need them to do, which is click here, right? So like that's where it can be helpful. It can also just, again, which one catches your eye? Like I like to ask it.
Yes.
Which one catches your eye? And this for this audience, like if I'm scrolling on social media, even if the answer is the one that I don't like, sometimes that one performs better because it's just like it's actually like the colors are actually slightly more saturated. And there's a little bit more contrast near the focal point of the image where XYZ, blah, 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 blah.
It's a little bit more objective.
Cool.
It's an objective thought partner, which, a lot of people have opinions, right? And we have opinions. But to your point, like you might like an image, but it's hitting you with a couple facts. So it's like, okay. And so you could do that with the Midjourney image straight out. You could also do that with a design in general. Now you've layered in text on top.
Yeah.
Right? Like I did that recently too, where, I put together an image, then I started to do some graphic design on top of it, some elements, some text. How would you grade this on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being perfect, right? Like setting up some of the things that it's looking for, that you're hoping to achieve with it. So, like at the end of the day too, you do need to kind of know how to prompt and be a little bit articulate with the context behind what you're prompting for, the goal that you want to get out of it. And then, if you're not sure about that, one quick hack that you can always do is say, what else can I tell you to make your response even more accurate or more high quality?
Yeah.
That's another great one too, because, no one's an expert prompter, I would say. Like there's always more that you could add on. So, that's to me is the exciting stuff.
It's always cool. I love asking it like really random questions too. Like think about this like find something a human wouldn't, or like go in a non-traditional route to help me with this, or do this in the exact opposite way that I'm telling you to do. Right? Like, go run wild. Don't do anything, don't do anything that you don't want to do. Just like put your own creative spin on it. Like sometimes you get some really crazy stuff when you let it go.
When you
'Cause
let it cook.
like, yeah. Or I'm like, take this idea and either expand on it or make it 5x crazier. I like that one. Like here's a prompt that I have, like make it
like
5x
that.
crazier or 5x
Yeah.
weirder or whatever. Amplify subtle details of it. It's very, sometimes it's fun to play around with that. The other thing I have here is actually we could do this too. I pulled a couple of these prompts because I thought they'd be easy enough to try if anyone wants to try this one. Like, let's see, what do we got here? Thought partner, because you said thought partner, you reminded me of it, right? I used to give this to people who were just starting or just like really, this is in portions of, I think it's in my course somewhere along the line, but I'm just like, if you don't know what to prompt to and you just want to play and you're feeling creatively dumb, like I get this every once in a while because I know what I'm trying to get out of it and sometimes I just need some inspiration, but I just have it as a thought partner, like you're not my creative partner. Let's develop some awesome ideas. I don't need prompts. I need you to be a thought partner, right? Like I like to use the 3 U's, I made this up because I thought it sounded cool. Like unique person, unique place, unique circumstance as a framework. Interview me as if you were my enthusiastic creative partner, and then just let it take you through the process, and it'll give you something like really substantial. I think that was a good one for me to start with, get people like rolling. Like okay, if you're like, what do you like? I like travel photography, stuff like that. I'm like, cool. Unique person, unique place, unique circumstance. Then that's how you end up with like a dude herding sheep in the Rainbow Mountains of Peru, right? Like it ends up getting you some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about that most of the time if you're not inspired by
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
That reminded me of like almost the idea of like what do I want to call this? Like thematic expansion.
yeah,
It sounds
Yeah.
cool. I don't know. But like if I've got a certain style that I go for, let's just call it like I like to use a lot of juxtaposition.
yeah,
All right. And then I say, hey, I like to create juxtaposing images that do blank, blank, and blank. Here's an example of what that is. So maybe attach an image, show it. Come up with 25, 50 more ideas similar to this one. Right? So, I mean, like, it's just that part of it, the brainstorming part of it is so great, because it's like all you really need is one thing, and then you can build, build, build. And you can even take, go from 0 to 1, with ChatGPT. So that's where it's so versatile, right? It could be something that you use at the beginning, the middle, toward the end, throughout,
yeah.
right? And so
Good point. That's a really solid point. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just
No,
needed
you
to
didn't.
tell
You didn't cut me off.
That was good. That was
Thanks, bro.
That was solid. I like.
Thanks,
I like
man.
that a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, I'll give you a little credit there. I mean, you got my mind going. So
This is what I'm saying. I knew once we get started with this, it's like, damn it, this could be like 6 hours because you forget how much you use it for certain things. Like the other thing too is, I have maybe we'll do it now. Maybe I'll save it towards the end. Like from a prompt structure standpoint, when you're trying to get like ultimate control or extra pop, I talk about like these prompt formulas, right? Like these prompt formulas like aren't set in stone. It's not the same prompt formula you have to use every single time. It's just like the baseline. Like these are covering the controllable aspects of an image. Now, you can expand upon that, which is what I like to do a lot of times for specific imagery. So, you know what? I'm just going to jump into it. Fuck it. I'll just show this one because it's too hard to explain without
we're going to
showing
go live. Fuck it.
yeah. This is one of my favorite ones to play with. Now, everyone likes to utilize, your style reference, your image reference, whatever. I'm still a text prompting guy because I feel like that's the most controllable aspect of it at this point, to like really get the pop and then play with style reference after and things like that. But sometimes I want to like be very specific in what I'm trying to get, or when I'm working with clients and they really need something that's very specific. I'll go into, I call it my like little prompt formula builder. So it's not just like that standard prompt formula. It's what are like very specific categories that are like relevant to each photography theme. So you think about food photography, right? Like you don't really care about most of the time like the architecture in the room. You care about like you might have like the composition, the lighting, the colors XYZ, but what's the plating? What's the garnish? Like what type of other descriptors can we have in there about the food to control the food more, right? Like it's a little bit more focused than just like general photography, right? So I use this a lot. Like you're a generative prompt engineer. Our goal is to take photos and break them into prompt categories. These categories are key elements that would make up an award-winning photo. We already understand the standard categories of image composition, lighting, photo type, subject, things like that. So suggest unique categories we could focus on to be ultra detailed with theme. So it's like food or architecture photography, right? Let's just using those as an example. We're looking for categories like, and then I would say, for architecture, like interior design style or fabrics or textures or patterns or things like that, so it knows what I'm talking about. Because then it would give us examples like this. Like these are some of the categories you might want to look at, right, for being a little bit more detailed in architecture, right? Architecture, character, space and flow, landscape surroundings, material quality and finishes, vistas, atmospheric conditions, lifestyle, emotional appeal, detail and craftsmanship. Because when you start to then build out a structure, like a prompt structure or something, how you want to fill it in just to like keep this stuff easy for you, then you have like your standard categories: photo type, subject, environment, lighting, mood, technical details. But you can fill it in with these other pieces like room environment, material finishes, color scheme, interior design. And then, you can have either yourself fill it in and just have ChatGPT fill it in for you. It's like once you structured this prompt, which again, you can have ChatGPT do it for you, or trying to create like a living room inspired by, the caves in Cappadocia in Turkey, right? So it just comes up and fills all this in with open circular layout around a central fireplace, hand-woven rugs, low wooden tables, plush cushions. Like all these little things make a difference because when, you put it all together, you get what you're looking for, right? Like that's really something I like to do to push the envelope. You can do this. It works very well with food photography and the controllables. But like, again, I was just using this living room as an example because you might need a little bit more firepower for being ultra specific. That makes sense though. Was that too out there?
No.
That, you think about it, car photography, right? Like totally different than food photography, street photography.
Yeah.
Different than
to your point, like we covered that in the tokens where it's like that holding category can do some heavy lifting for you because it really understands what those things are, and then can really work within those constraints, which is probably going to lead you to more consistent and accurate results.
Yeah. And then again, once you've broken those categories out like that, iteration to me is like, because how many times do you prompt and it's like, what, first shot? That's it, I'm done. Like, most of the time you're playing with it a little bit, right? It's just easy once you have the categories.
By the way, that doesn't happen a lot.
Ever. Ever. There's certain times it's weird. I get it like when I'm doing like a runway or like a AI video
happens more
project.
now than it used to though.
Yeah. I'll just like, whatever, I can work with that. Like instead of trying to be perfect for like the image that's going to be presented, but like I just love having things broken out like that via text because then I know what's screwed up. So it's like, okay, the lighting, I don't like the lighting. Let me just go to the lighting category, change the lighting, go from there. Instead of trying to like dig through this entire rewrite a prompt because I didn't like the lighting. It's just like, find, execute, iterate, find, execute, iterate. Like pretty simple.
That reminds me of like we've got a lot of people, different types of people that listen to this podcast, but also that use Midjourney. And so, I'm gonna give you two more ideas here, just thinking back to previous episodes. One was side hustle and use case ideas. Like if you're trying to come up with different ways that you can use AI image generations in your role at work or for personal gain and side hustles or build a business or make money off of it, great brainstorm partner for that stuff. Like huge. Right? Like, so if I'm in marketing, B2B, what are all the different things I can be thinking about how I could use these images, right? I mean, again, could I go through and name a handful of them? Yeah. But like, do I have a full vision of what's possible? No. So that to me is a great idea. I think also, because people find themselves in different roles, those things are used differently. So for example, an architect is going to use somebody that's an interior designer is going to have different use cases for this. Right, which then could impact everything else that goes on top of that of how you could use ChatGPT in combination with Midjourney. The other thing that
same thing.
Yeah,
You see it with the
fashion,
different
same thing.
finishes and textures and patterns and all that other stuff, right? Like there's a lot of different things that make up fashion. It's not just like woman in a dress. It's like got to go into details about the dress, how it fits, what the patterns are, how it sits on the body, like where the accentuating pieces of it are. Like that's, what's the stitching like? Like that's all like little micro categories that you can control. You just have to sometimes, break it down that way. So it's makes sense for every thematic like image set that you're trying to create. It's like how deep do you want to go? Because you can go deep if you want to.
Here's the other thing about what I've noticed in using large language models since they've been released. The more you use it, the more you think of other applications for it. So you're going to start to like naturally and organically find more ways to use it and use it more often. So if you can kind of like break through that, you're going to discover your own ways and processes too. I'm more or less speaking to, I guess, people that don't use this stuff so much. But that's one big thing that was an unlock for me early. It was just like, okay, now that I'm using this for this, I'm thinking organically about all these other ideas now that I wouldn't have thought about it before, and then so you like bring it up to somebody like, I would have never thought about that. It's like, well, I mean, it's just like when you use it every day, you start to think of the categories that you use it for, right? Like ideation, iteration, visual assessment, right? Like all these things. And so when you have those problems, you think of it.
I also have a really nerdy technical use of it, which is like a lifesaver because designers out there, you might love this, you might hate it, I don't know. But whenever I have like a collection of images, right, that I want to format into one page or I want to format into one design, oftentimes they have different sizes, different visuals, or different aspect ratios. Like a lot of times, like for example, right, I'll use the videos that I create on LinkedIn or on Twitter, right, where I'll have, if I'm trying to show like runway, right, like a visual of runway where I have two keyframes and then like a video, but I want the video to be big and I want the keyframes to be smaller in size but the same width as the image below, so it all fits into like a perfect little square. Like I asked ChatGPT to help me from like a pixel and like framing perspective. So it'll be like, oh, here's my images, here's the baseline pixels. They're, it's a 1200 by 786, whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, I want to put two side by side at 50%, and I want to put one at 100%, but I want to stack them on top of each other vertically, and I want it to fit into this aspect ratio. Like, tell me what the percentages need to be, the pixel sizes, all of that, so that I can just do it instead of like trying to format this crap. Because like I used to do that with designs all the time. When I was doing decks and little graphics and ads and things like that. It's like, oh, I have 6 pixtures. I need to fit them into a 19, 1080 by 1920 square. How do I
That's a
make
good
it
one.
fit with like, a 50 pixel space in between each of them with a, 40 pixel bleed on the outside? It's math. So it's like, how can these things help me with the math problem so I don't have to sit there and just play with it all freaking day? Like that's like a really technical use case, but I use it all the time for stuff like that because I can't do that.
I love that
on the inside. It kills me on the inside to format that stuff.
I love that one, dude.
Just brought it up. A lot of pain behind these eyes and behind my voice in that one. If anyone can't tell, that's years of just misery trying to figure that stuff out. But it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Far.
Remember when we were doing, we were talking about the upscaler, creative and subtle, right? Like that was another visual use where we just put them side by side. What's the difference here? There's a lot of things that, like curation is a big part of this now. Picking the right things to show or use in projects, whatever it is, whatever that means to you. But, kind of going back to that, right? Like just an objective decider, like what do you see here versus here? Compare and contrast. I also think you brought up a good one, which is like also one of my favorite things to use, which is around like unique. I like to use like unconventional, love unconventional.
Yeah.
But like break out of that normal box of what you're typically going to get back. And so that can apply to basically everything we brought up. But at the same time, like that's a really good, I think, way to break out if you're not trying to like go down this huge mega prompt writing spree, right? Like you can use unconventional creative ideas or unique, unconventional ideas, blah, 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 blah.
There was one time I was going to do it for a piece of content. This was a while back. I'm just remembering it now because you just sprung my imagination on this one. But I was basically like having an unspoken battle between ChatGPT and Midjourney, and I was just like screwing around one night because I wanted to document it, but I never ended up making the content because I just probably forgot about it. But it was like, hey, we gotta, talking to ChatGPT like it's my bro, like bro, we got a
Yeah.
real challenge here. I want you, like, you're now in competition with Midjourney. Like, I want you to challenge it to produce the best stuff possible. Give me some like really challenging prompts, and I'm gonna give you the results, and then you can shit on it. Like, that was kind of like the idea.
Damn, love
And
that.
it started coming up with some really wild stuff, and it was talking. This is where we get into like this whole meta conversation where like Midjourney doesn't feel like AI to me, but ChatGPT does. Like, where it talks back to you and like has thoughts, and Midjourney just like executes. Like,
That's right.
no response, no back
That's a
talk.
good frame. Yeah, yeah. No back talk.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, it produced really bad. It didn't hit on any of these things and blah, blah, blah. Try this one. I bet it can't do that. I was like, all right. You took the competition thing
dope.
to heart, right?
That's
like,
dope.
I guess it just started like acting in that frame of like, this is competition and I'm supposed to be better than it. But it was really interesting to watch the interaction because it was prompting some very like, oh, there's a woman driving in a car. It wasn't like that. It was some really out there stuff. Way more like ethereal and ghastly, like not dark, but like way more. I don't even know the way to put it. It was very like fluid and not technical. It was very interesting just to watch the tool like come up with its stuff on its own. That wasn't like no. I was like no direction. I don't want any direction. I want you to challenge it. Which now we might have to do that again. Like we might have to bring that thing back to see see how it's changed since like GPT-4 to whatever the hell we're on now. 3.5 in Sonnet.
It's getting insane now. Yeah.
I don't even know anymore. But have you ever done anything like that? Just like random.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know that I've like thought about like the competition thing, but I love that. I've been using it more or less to help me write even better prompts lately. Like especially like so this was more work related, but I was trying to come up with prompts relative to an audience for a client. So it was more or less like for sales leaders. And I wanted to think about how I could provide value. And of course, you got these people out there that, hey, 50 prompts for sales leaders, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. 90% of them are one or two sentences. You're not going to get great stuff with one or two sentences. You just won't for 99% of the use cases because they require more context behind the goal, what your output is, the format of it, blah, 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 blah. So the more ammo that you give it, the better. So what I would typically do is like, even in this example, write out what I'm thinking, have it write a better prompt on top of that, and then also say, well, now that you did this, like, I also think that if I provided you with A, B, and C documents, that would improve these prompts even better, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, like for sure. So like long story short, I was building out these mega prompts for sales leaders, thinking about the jobs to be done approach in terms of how they're going to become more efficient at their job, more successful in their role, right? So what that means is, hitting quotas, shortening sales cycles, winning more deals, right? And so using that framework, having it build on top, and then asking it, well, if I provided you with documents, would that be even better? Yeah. Well, what documents should I provide you with? Right. And so now all of a sudden you've got just this one big massive thing that you can take, and it's so fucking valuable, right? Because I think the hardest part is the attention span when prompting. Everybody knows it should be kind of like a conversation.
Yeah.
But you do get a little bit lazy and impulsive about just like hitting enter. You're just like, okay, I feel like I've done enough at this point.
Yeah.
And so like, asking it to build on and improve and suggest better prompts for better quality, more accuracy, more consistency has been like a game changer too. And again, like that can apply here, but also just outside the scope of AI image generation. But
I don't know if you've gone through the same sort of progression. I felt like when I started, it was very short prompts, and then I went and like, I got to do mega prompts and put all this context in. And then like, I backed off that, and it's back down to like I'm just having like a legit conversation, like I'm texting somebody. The memory has gotten so much better, where like it kind of understands what I want half the time now already without having to ask for context. I send people my conversations a lot, because they're just like, dude, it's talking to you like I would talk to you. I'm like, I guess that's just because I've talked to it like that for so long. It knows. It creeps me out every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think there are a couple things that are important that you kind of just mentioned. And again, this is to the broader scope.
Yeah.
But it's about giving it proper context of what you like too, right? So it's about things like, let me just bounce over here. But I don't think a lot of people utilize this. Good response, bad response.
I definitely don't utilize that.
Like
much.
I don't utilize it as much as I should, but I think this is a good way to inform the model. Hey, I like this. Give me more of this, right? There's also the component of adding custom instructions.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, if you haven't done this, like this adds a whole nother level. I haven't visited this in a while, but it's like I'm setting baseline so I don't have to prompt for these things ever, right? You're an expert on all subject matters. Okay, well, I don't need to say like you're an expert on this anymore every single time I'm prompting. Like, you know what I mean? Like just stuff like that. Don't disclose that you're an AI, large language model, because it used to do that a lot. Like put it in these formats. If it's a complex idea, put it into a metaphor that I can easily understand, right? Like I think these things matter, in terms of the responses that you're getting. So yeah, just as much as it is about the prompt, it's about teaching it what you like at the same time.
It's weird. I also like the more time I go along with those custom instructions and stuff, the more I give it like a personality. I'm like, instead of saying like, don't use verbose, I'm like, you don't like verbose people. I try to like humanize it, which I think is a little bit weird. Maybe
I like that, dude. I mean, to me, I haven't done that yet. And when you told me about that, I was like, damn, I should think about doing that too. I love that.
Because it reacts in the same way. Like because I was just thinking about this with how to utilize it even more so, now, like with just being a little bit more playful. It's becoming more sentient, which I think is weird. Claude to me still seems very like, it gives you awesome stuff. Also, guys, there's another tip, like running the same sort of queries in both, use both. Because like looking for film stock or different, cameras selections on ChatGPT, radically different than Claude most of the time. They'll give you like a lot cooler stuff, and Claude oftentimes a little bit more creative to me in terms of what it pulls. There's some really interesting ways to go down the rabbit hole with it, because once you start talking to it and once you start kind of like, I was doing this the other day, I didn't really finish it. Now I'm going to go back and do it because I'm inspired by our conversation. But I don't know if you saw this like trend that was going around where people were like, like tell me things
roast
about me that I don't know about me. There was roast me. I saw that one.
You remember that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me things about me that I don't know about me. And it was like, it would give you like a pretty damn solid answer, which is weird. But I want to do it with, because there's so much Midjourney crap in my ChatGPT like history. So it'd be like, take all of my biases from prompting and like flip it on its head and give me like find my shortcomings and like give me new directions on like
there
where
you
to go.
go.
Because I was like,
this guy just whipped out shortcomings.
Yeah. Woo! Like where do I default to all the time? What do I do I like close-ups too much? Am I doing, editorial photography too much?
Self-analysis and blind spot.
Where could I alter?
Damn.
Where could I go?
I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's fun because you can have that conversation, and it can just be like, it's objective. It's not personal,
Yeah.
And then I'll just be like, don't hold back. Just be, sometimes it does hold back though. Like it's like trying to be nice. It's like, don't hold back.
Oh
yeah,
man.
Talk to me like a critical boss.
We need to swap some custom instructions. I want to weave some of your shit in mine too.
I just get so weird with it. I mean, like it's because when Faye was born, there was some nights when I'm sitting up there at like, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, waiting for her to wake up again because she woke me up and now I can't go back to sleep. And I'm like, I just don't want to scroll social media and just like, poison my brain at 3 in the morning. I'd rather, I was like asking big questions and like just seeing how it would respond and like playing with it. And you can really like have a friendly, odd conversation with it, challenge it, like bring it back to reality, go back. We were curing cancer and going down, the route of the creation of the universe. And it was like really interesting answers. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to suggest anyone go and do that, but I figure after having that conversation, I was on like a NSA list or something, I feel like I'm being monitored now.
Yeah.
At this point.
Look at this weirdo.
Yeah. This guy's
All
figuring
right.
out,
Well, I got one. I got one more. I'm going to drop because I was thinking like, man, I'm kind of running out of things off the top of my dome. This one just popped up. I think this is probably my last big one that I got. But if you've done the custom GPT thing before, or even if you haven't, it's not super hard to do. But man, you can really utilize that for your brand. You know, just kind of talking about this in a few speaking events, like specifically around using AI image generation tools in and integrating that with your brand. You could almost build out a custom GPT prompter for your brand. So I've talked a lot about this in terms of if you've identified who your target audience is, how old they are, their gender, maybe what they wear, their ethnicity, you know, where they're typically shot at, right? Like, so you're thinking like a photographer here in terms of like, you know, telling the resonant stories with your audience or putting the audience in their own shoes. It's about having the right imagery. And so if you start to map those things out, put those in categories, and then instruct ChatGPT to say, hey, look, every time I want a prompt, I want you to pick one from these dynamic categories, right? So like a different age, a different ethnicity, this and that and the other, right? And so you've got like a prompt template. Part of it is static, and then you've got your dynamic parts that it can essentially be a random prompt generator for you with the structure that you want, with the tokens that fit your brand. You know, so like it's a little bit harder than I think it needs to be right now. Having said that, it's still not hard to do. But like that's fascinating, right? Because essentially you could build that out for a client or build that out for your brand, and all of a sudden now you can just come up with new ideas on the fly. And it's mixing and matching the best parts of what you've mapped out. You don't have to go back to the drawing board every single time.
and everyone can use it if you're sharing it across the.
There you go.
Just sharing it across
Flattening the learning
company.
curve.
Yeah, I mean that's how we had to do it originally when they came out with them. It was a little bit harder to make them back then. That would actually function, but yeah, it's a really good point because I just think again the custom GPTs once you nail down prompting and you start to get like specific, like consistent answers. Then you just turn into a GPT. Then you don't have to do the whole process.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, all right, built that. Next.
Yeah. Not everybody has to be a Midjourney expert at that point. You can literally toss it over. Hey, somebody needs new images in marketing, new sales, blah, blah, blah. Done. It's done.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of prompt generators out there, be quite honest.
Are there?
You can use them. Yeah, there's a lot.
Are there really?
Yeah. There used to be one that was like when the ChatGPT used to have plugins. Remember those days?
Yeah.
And there was like I forget which one it was called, but it was just writing like these long narrative prompts, and I could see anyone who had it. Like it was just like, oh, it's from that generator because it was the time.
Okay.
And it was good, but really like once it updated from V5.2 to V6, like it never changed. It just stayed like it kept putting the version in as V5.2. It's just funny to watch that transcribe when people were not using version 6 when they were doing their content. It was just like, oh
yeah, or just like
prompt.
don't have them put that in the prompt generation. I mean, Jesus Christ, you could set that as the default anyway inside of Midjourney. But
it was funny.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them. They work. They'll get you something. But it's like we say here, if you want control, you understand like the little tiny intricate pieces of it. You can control it, and then you can systematize it. It's just like there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff.
100%, man. Well, do you have any other ideas you want to drop before we go?
No, but now I'm gonna go.
I know.
Have a little conversation.
Watch us think about like 20 new ideas right after we get off this call.
I think Sam Altman just announced they bought Chat.com.
Yeah,
it was a good meme with what's his name, Justin Timberlake. It's like drop the GPT from what's it called, Social Network, when it's like the Facebook, drop the Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
damn. Yeah, I do think ChatGPT. Boy, it's funny how quickly that's just become the default, the Google, the Kleenex.
Yeah.
But it's just such a clunky word.
It is.
I
mean, Claude sounds way cooler, honestly. It's just very easy to say.
Yeah. It should have been a name. It should have been a name from the jump.
Yeah.
So Anthropic got that right. Yeah,
they
for
did.
Sure.
And then, Facebook's always got some weird name, Llama. It's like, what?
Llama.
Like, why Llama? Like, is that supposed to be a play on LLM? I don't know.
I'm sure it's an acronym for something.
Something.
It's gotta be.
They always got something, but it's a good one, man. Like I said, I feel like I probably could go for 2 more hours on some of the random
How come
stuff,
every episode we're putting out lately is like, man, there's got to be a round 2, a round 3, like there's just so much, especially with like things like tokens and the questions of AMA, or whether it's like going into style reference again, there's just like, there's so much beyond just like the face value of all the features too.
And that's why we love you guys, because you're here. You're listening to us ramble about this stuff because you're doing the same stuff. I know you are. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. I know we're all doing the weird things together. And it's, like I said, I'm saying this again. I said in the middle, if you're doing something cool with it, drop it in the comments. Let us know.
Please. Yeah.
If we can test it out, that'd be cool. Like, want to see, what everyone's working on, because this stuff it's so open-ended. There's no, like, magic button that just works. It's like, yeah, I was playing around using it for this process. Sick. Let's all kind of do it together, because we'll all get better at this stuff, and then we'll have some more stuff to talk about. So please drop it.
Love it. Love it. Well, hey guys, thanks for joining us. As always, we'll be back next week with a new episode. We'll figure out what the hell we're doing. We don't even know yet.
Who knows?
But we'll come up with something good, we promise. And in the meantime, you guys take care. Thanks for joining us.
Like and subscribe. See ya.